It's really about breaking it down and making it very specific. What we didn't want is that for it to be too obvious, you know, the big sort of glass eye and the scars.
So the true story that this movie is based on is pretty compelling. Had you read The Feathermen before signing on for the role?
No, I haven't. And I've worked on a number of films that are based on books or true stories, and I think, you know, at some point you have to kind of leave the source material and it becomes its own thing. You know, a film is very much an independent thing, and this is, you know, it's inspired and it's based on that book, but I think it's very different.
Did you spend time with some ex-Special Forces guys to prep for the role?
Yeah, I did. I mean, luckily I know a couple anyway, and there was an advisor on the film who was ex-SAS who was really fascinating to talk to, and it was very, for me, to play a guy, the thing that interested me was somebody being ex-SAS, somebody who's been through that incredible, rigorous training, has been in really intense, you know, incredible situations around the world, and then suddenly they stop and they've got a pension, and it's kind of what happens to those guys.
Well, that's what I thought was interesting about Spike, too, because even though he's this tough guy, he's been through a lot, he's kind of been discarded.
Exactly.
So how did you strike that balance, or work to strike that balance between being tough and vulnerable?
I think that's, you know, that's pretty much what he's like. I mean, I think there's a slight feeling of resentment of him being sort of having to leave and not having a lot there, but he's also somebody who wishes he was still in the action. I'm sure that, you know, when you've been trained that rigorously, it's kind of all you know.
Now, there's some really spectacular fight scenes between you and Jason in the movie, and I know there's really no room for error when you're doing those. So is there a different sort of mental prep that you do as an actor before you go into action?
You do a lot of rehearsals, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that was worked out for a good few weeks before we even turn up on set. You know, we're working with stunt guys, we're sort of working out all the beats, we're getting it down, and then, you know, those fights are always broken down. You try and do as much as you can in one shot, but very often it's not too much because of safety and because of angles. You basically hone a couple of beats of it very intensely. So it's really about breaking it down and making it very specific.
I also wanted to ask you, you know, your character Spike is missing an eye. How did they achieve that look for the film through makeup?
My makeup artist Dorka is brilliant, and we found a sort of, you know, lens that wasn't too much. What we didn't want is that for it to be too obvious, you know, the big sort of glass eye and the scars, and you know, it was like, I've seen that before in many movies, and it was, you know, it was something that you wanted to be present throughout, and you were kind of aware of it, but it wasn't shouting loudly too much.